So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Joris Lenzen. I'm the Managing Director here at ABIS. And it's my pleasure this afternoon to welcome you to our first episode and kickoff of our ABIS webinar series, where we want to present the latest emerging insights on topics related to business and society. So we're planning to do this now on a regular basis. So please look out for our next one that's going to be announced very soon. It's also my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Thomas Osburg, who is a member of the ABIS Board of Directors, Professor of Sustainable Marketing and Leadership at the Fresenius Business School in Munich, in Germany. Also, he's Director of the Circular Economy Institute, an international research think tank and strategic advisory. And for more than 25 years, Thomas has worked in global IT companies like Intel, Autotext, Texas Instruments, and has been living in France, the US, and Germany. And today, we're going to hear from him on social sustainability and the impact of digitalization. Just for you all to know, we're also going to record this webinar, and after Thomas' presentation, we're going to have a short Q&A session where you then will be able to raise your hand in the system, and then we're going to unmute you to make your comments. Without further ado, then I would hand over to you, Thomas. Thank you very much for your presentation, and please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Joris, and thanks to everybody who joined the webinar. What I will try to take the next 15-20 minutes, not so much to give answers, but really raise a point, I think, where I see sustainability, some people might call it still CSR, partially it is, where is that going in today's world? So it will be about a lot of questions still, and I'm looking forward to some Q&As or some Qs where I might not have the A's. But anyway, I think it's a discussion that only gets started now. So it's more of an impulse speech that I would like to do right now, the next 15 minutes. And again, as said by Joris, if there's any questions, let me know after that and we can discuss. The topic is social sustainability, the impact of digitalization. And of course, we all know digitalization. It's nothing new. We are confronted with it basically every day in universities, in business schools, in businesses. And we also know in theory about the concept of social sustainability. So the central questions for me right now that I will try to touch base on today is, what does digitalization offer what are the benefits that digitalization offers, but also what are the challenges? And when we look about business and society, what ABIS stands for, what do we need to watch out for? But also, not so much in terms of challenges, but also in terms of businesses, what are new approaches of social sustainability that business can include in their doings every day? What does it mean for society at large? Because, of course, business operates in society. How will it change the way we live and work? What are the challenges, again, but also the opportunities? And then, of course, but I know there's a lot of experts here in this on this call who might have a better answer. What does it mean for business schools? How does thinking and teaching need to change or to evolve? So all these there's a couple of questions behind, and I would like to give some impulse there. So let's maybe get started on that one. When we talk about sustainability, I think we all know what it means. And we get the answer something like, yeah, okay, I know sustainability, it's important, we are doing it. It's something with good or green, or, we are okay here and it's saving the earth and the planet and so on. And I think in a digital world, this basic concept of understanding of sustainability will evolve. And if you look at this slide here, we know the three pillars of sustainability: ecological, economic, and social. But mostly, when you talk to a lot of people, they understand the ecological impact. What does it mean in terms of green environment, technology for the environment, climate change, water usage, and so on? So that is pretty well understood today. And that is what is, I would say, to at least 70–80% of the people, what they understand by sustainability. Then, of course, from the business side, economic impact, how to make sure to keep a business running and not using or having the resources in order to maintain the business. That is understood by businesses and by business schools, of course. So the economic impact partially as well. But then the question is really on the social impact. What is this third pillar on sustainability, the social sustainability, or some people call it cultural sustainability? And after all the research I've done here together with the school and privately, there's a very wide area of understanding, from fresh fruits to people to protecting the human rights to whatever. So it's a mishmash of, but it's not very clear. So the question is, in a digital world that we're moving towards, what is that pillar of social sustainability? What does it really mean? What is the impact here? Now, I would like to, show you some examples here that I think serve as the purpose here of these next examples is to open the horizon and to think about it in terms of, if that happens, what will it mean for society and for businesses and for business teaching? If you look at, I took a picture here, it's taken from a video from Corning Glass, it's a glass company. The video is called A Day Made of Glass. You can find it on YouTube. And it basically shows what is possible today, which means you have technology everywhere. You go to the bathroom in the morning and you brush your teeth, and you have your calendar, the weather forecast, the TV, whatever you want. And you can answer immediately that you cannot make it to the meeting, or that your kids are sick, or something like that. The technology is embedded. You don't need a computer. Now, that is reality today. It can be done. The question is, how do people accept that? Do you want that? I mean, is it the same acceptance to have these kind of tools on a bathroom mirror than you have on a PC? There's much more in this video, so people who are interested can watch that. But it basically means we are surrounded by technology, and we are sometimes unsure how much this technology can control us. Now, in this example here, there's no camera, because I think nobody wants a camera in the bathroom. But the question is really, do people trust this technology, that there's no camera? Even though it's promised, but there might be some doubts that stay with the people. Another one is medicine. Now, we know, of course, e-health and so on. But if you look at digital medicine, digital medication, it takes us to a new level. Some of you might be aware of it, others might not be aware of it. But what is reality today is you swallow a pill, a drug, I mean, like on the left-hand side of this picture there, it stays in your stomach, and a sort of small sensor is set free by your stomach, what is in your stomach, and the sensor resides in your stomach. And this sensor then sends information to a band-aid, an intelligent band-aid that you have, for example, on your arm or wrist. And this band-aid communicates with your smartphone, which of course is connected somewhere to the internet and to the cloud. And the reason is, it might remind elderly people or people who forget about things, please take your medicine now. You need to take the red pill or the green pill. It's also possible today to have this anti-baby pills, not to get pregnant for women, to swallow one, and then you don't have to think about it every morning, but it can stay for a longer time, for a lot of months, probably years. And it always automatically sets free the hormones that are needed in the body of a woman not to get pregnant. And of course, it's all controlled then somehow by the web, by the cloud and so on, for something that is in your body. Now, that is a totally different world that we might live in. And again, this is possible today, technology-wise. How will it be accepted again? But also a big question here is, my son asked me that when I first presented that to him, well, what happens if this thing gets hacked? If there's a break-in, if somebody breaks into that system from outside. Now, nobody here, I think, wants anybody to control his or her stomach. But again, technology-wise, that's possible. So the question for all these companies involved in that is, what is their responsibility here? What will they do to make sure it will not happen? We all know self-driven cars. Here's a picture of a self-driven truck. And I had the privilege to talk to the CEO of Mercedes 1 or 2 months ago. And he was really happy and full of energy when he talked about the self-driven trucks and all the people that are not needed anymore. And he was really very happy and positive. And somebody asked the question, do you think that 10,000 truck drivers in Germany will be as happy as you are? Because they will be laid off. And his answer was, well, it's a question of time. And then the next question was, well, but you cannot move truck drivers from being a truck driver to becoming a data analyst. So the question is, how do companies then deal with all these changes in the job sector? Now, you don't need drivers anymore for cars, not anymore for trucks. Airbus is testing the urban air mobility, which is nothing else than the flying car. That will be the next big thing in the next maybe 10 or 20 years. People will fly cars. That's what's currently in development already. Now, how will that change? And what is the responsibility then of the firms? And you have very simple things, of course, like, face recognition software, police and custom borders, people, they are using that already, but more and more stores are using it. So you go into a store here on the escalator, and there's a camera that recognizes your face. And it tells the store, oh, you're coming alone or coming with a girlfriend or wife. And it's raining outside or there's sunshine. And it's 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning, or it's 7:45 in the evening on a rainy Thursday. And all of that immediately, the moment you enter the store, will determine what kind of offer will be given to you. If the store manager comes and greets you, or if you're just left alone, because the store knows you might only want to buy some new socks or underwear, but nothing else. While when you come on a Saturday with your wife or girlfriend, as a man here in the picture, you might go for a couple of $100 suit or a couple of €100 suit. So totally different kind of thing. We know that we are watched when we go online, but people are not accustomed yet being not anonymous anymore when they go into a store. But that's reality today. You go into a store, the moment you enter the store, you accept the terms and conditions, which means you give them the right that they exactly follow you where you go around, how you walk around in the store. They follow your trace. A lot of stores are experimenting with that. And again, what does that mean for the responsibility? How will people accept it? How will store concepts change in the stationary area, not the online one here? And then, of course, the algorithms. Some of you might know this picture. It's taken from this famous video, of course, from Eli Pariser, the filter bubble. I guess some of you know that. And his point there is more and more the algorithms taking control in this filter bubble of what we see, and they somehow exercise some kind of censorship over, I mean, a mild censorship, of course, but they control what we see, what we get to see, and then it changes our behavior. And algorithms as such, in the end, even if they are self-learning, but at a certain point, algorithms are steps to be performed by computers that humans decided what to do. So here again, the question is, and it's not only to Facebooks and Googles and so on, who controls these algorithms? What is the responsibility of companies when they have their own algorithms? And that applies in the end to every company who goes to digital processes. Digital processes and everything means algorithms. And algorithms will change the way that customers or employees interact with the firm. So the question is, again, what are these algorithms? What will they do ultimately? And again, what is changing then for the responsibility of the company? So you see, all of that might not be new. I like this picture particularly here. Actually, also my children, and the ones of you who have children might understand why they like it. So sitting in a tram or in a train and looking at your smartphone is nothing new in the end. People did it only some years ago. It wasn't a smartphone, it was a newspaper. So a lot of things might not change, and a lot of things happened before, and we have seen changes in this world for the last couple of 100 years or 1,000 years. And so far, the world was able to deal with that. So from that perspective, it's a positive message. Okay, there will be lots of changes coming. The world will be able to deal with it. What I think, what is really the difference here is the speed. We are going probably right now to new paradigms. We are going to new business models, to new ways of responsibilities and how companies operate in society at a speed we've never seen before. A lot of technologies gave us as a society 5 years, maybe 10 years to adopt to it. We don't have these 5 or 10 years anymore. We will see immediately after 1, 2, or 3 years or whatever, dramatic changes. And the question is again, how will companies react to that? And what is their role? What is their responsibility then to adapt to that? And so I think this speed, if you look at recent, well, it's not so recent anymore, but anyway, still good, 2 years ago, but it's a study, it's a trust barometer from Edelman. Edelman is a PR company in New York. Some of you might know the trust barometer. And 2 years ago, every year they do a survey in 30 countries, 30, and they ask about 1,000 people how much they trust institutions, like governments, media, NGOs, and companies. What happened about 2 years ago is the trust in business has gone down, and the reason was interesting. 51% of the respondents across 30 countries said companies are innovating too fast, so too many innovations. So it was a totally new situation. Companies losing trust now because they innovate too much, and that is totally new. And the reason given for that was, well, companies do it because of greed, because of bonuses, because of higher salaries for the managers, higher revenue, more profit. So all very selfish reasons. But the category where they do it because of they want to do something good for society or so, that was very low. It was in the 20% range. And 10 years ago, that number was much higher. So we see, even in that study here from a PR firm, trust is dwindling down. The trust in firms, in society as a whole, is really declining. And if you look at the 2017 version, it confirms the same thing. Trust is going down because there's too many innovations. It's going too fast. People don't understand digitalization anymore. They don't understand the value for themselves. And that will be a huge, huge challenge, which in the end is nothing else than what is social sustainability in the end. Now, we are, if you look at that, the chasm in the middle there, this, or the divide, if you want, we will see more and more a separation of societies or of customers, if you want, for firms, between digital elites and analog illiterates. So people who fully understand what we are talking about here and who can deal with that, who can go online like nobody else before, the digital natives. But then we talk about potentially even a majority still of these analog illiterates. They don't understand what's going on and they lose trust. So what are companies doing? What is their responsibility to make sure that these analog illiterates are also taken on board? And there's a lot of questions still and very few answers, I think, today. There was, at this conference that I mentioned, there was a nice saying from Satya Nadella from Microsoft. He said, well, today, if you look at self-driven cars or robots or whatever, we accept people killing people, but we don't yet accept machines killing people. I have a small problem with that. I think we don't accept people killing people, but we are used to it, right? We are used that every weekend there's about, 30, 40, 50 people on German highways that are killed. That's normal. There's 30, 40 accidents with mortals, with dead people. That's the way of life. That's the way it is. But just imagine there's one more Tesla or something like that that explodes and just one person is dying. That makes the headline news for at least 3 months. Or if this robot there that you see turns around with something with an algorithm that was programmed and there's a man or a woman standing behind or two and both of them are dead. Now, robot kills people. That will be a headline news that is still new and that people say, oh, that is raising resistance again, and so on. However, if you look at the real numbers, there's more people killing people, of course, but it will also happen, and that's of course a negative thing, but yes, machines more and more in this digital world might kill or lead to the death of people. As everybody thinks, most likely much less than people killing people, but still it will happen. It's not to be, it will not happen that it doesn't happen, or it will happen, yeah. So how do companies act to that or react to that? And of course, this trolley experiment that a lot of you know from ethics, if the trolley goes either to the right or to the left, what do you do? if the trolley goes in its programmed way, the algorithms, it will kill the 5 people. But then the men here who can decide, who's standing there, can decide, no, I switch the trace, or I switch the way this trolley is going. Well, of course, then it will kill this 1 man there, but not the 5 people. Now, is that an ethical behavior? In today's Western thinking, it is not. Because it's very clearly our thinking would be, no, leave the trolley as it is. However, fewer people accept that. And the question is very real. As we know, it's the question we all know from the Teslas. If a self-driven car with nobody at the steering wheel can only decide to run into a group of 5 young kids, 10 years old, who have their life in front of them, or into a group of 5 very old people of about 90 years, who statistically have only a few years to live maybe. Who's deciding in what direction this car is going? Can you really say 5 people here are worth more or less than the other 5 people? All these will be questioned, that in the end need to be somehow included in the algorithms that companies, car companies, information technology companies, program in their algorithms. So what is their responsibility in that direction? And in the end, it's really about trust. And I mentioned Edelman again. Here's a quote from Richard Edelman. You can read it. We have moved beyond the point of trust being simply a key factor in product purchase. So the typical branding, right? Or the selection of employment opportunity. Trust is now the deciding factor in whether a society can function. So the question really is, how much do we trust these new systems? And what is the responsibility of the companies here? So in the end, what we're talking is a totally new way of social sustainability, or if some people would like to call it, and that's fine again as well, a sort of digital CSR, a digital responsibility. And I really think, apart from all these ecological problems that we have and that we're still talking about, the climate change and so on, if you look at this world, what we will see in digitalization coming towards us, we haven't seen the tip of the iceberg or the real iceberg yet. We've only seen the tip of the iceberg. And it will really be a question, in a much larger sense, what is the responsibility of companies? For ecological sustainability, it is a technical discussion, how much companies can reduce their CO2 emission, how much water usage they can reduce, and so on. It's technical measures, and companies are getting to that, and they know that. But now the question is really, what is the responsibility of companies? In one side for their business, their responsibility for all this digitalization, but also their impact on societies. If you think about the digital elite and the illiterates, analog illiterates. Now, there's a much wider responsibility, even in my view, that companies will have to face than what they face today. So really, I think, quoting an old song from 40 years ago, for some of you who are not that young, we ain't seen nothing yet. I think the real sustainability will be that social sustainability, and that will be something that will be extremely important for companies, for NGOs, for organizations like ABIS, for business school. How is that integrated into teaching? So things like ethics, highly important. I'm teaching ethics myself, and in the beginning people say, oh, Socrates, Plato, yeah, the old stuff, right, the old Greek. But when it really comes to what does it mean, fairness, that NGOs and companies work together, well, it's about fairness. When you talk about trust, the values of our society, how will it impact from companies go to society as a large? As Edelman says, how can societies function as a large, and how much are companies responsible for that? That will be really, in the end, how this social sustainability in its pure sense will be defined. So how do we make sure that we leave the world in a state where we have at least the same level of trust and collaboration between people than what we have seen, and we leave that for our kids. So really, we ain't seen nothing yet in terms of ecological sustainability. The big one is still to come, in my view, and that is the social sustainability that will be based on this digitalization.